Haiku, Sonnet, Opus. 3 Claude models to choose from, but does it matter which one you pick? It actually does, and maybe more than you realise. In this video I'll explain why, and I'll give you a simple framework for choosing the right one every time, so you're never overspending tokens on a model that you don't need, or getting lower quality results because you chose one that isn't up to the task. If you've already watched my video on tokens, some of this will click even faster. If not, I'll link it down in the description. It adds useful context, but you don't need it to follow along here. Anthropic builds Claude in tiers. The idea is simple. Match the intelligence of the model to the complexity of your task. As of mid-2026, you've got 3 to choose from. Haiku is the fastest and most token-efficient model in the lineup. It's built for tasks where you need a quick, clean answer, and the thinking involved is relatively straightforward. Grammar checks, renaming files, summarizing a short article, generating a list of ideas from a fixed template. Anything where speed matters more than depth. Haiku handles it well, and it handles it cheaply. Think of it like asking a very capable assistant to sort your inbox. You don't need a genius for that, you need someone fast and reliable. Sonnet is the default for most professional work. It sits at the sweet spot between intelligence and speed. It has strong reasoning capabilities, it's much faster than Opus, and at a fraction of the cost. For most creators and professionals, Sonnet is the model that they'll spend 80% of their time in. Writing a video script, analysing a data set, drafting a client proposal, building out a content calendar. These are all Sonnet tasks. They need real intelligence and coherent thinking, but they don't require the full horsepower of Opus. Opus is Anthropic's most capable model, built for deep reasoning, complex coding, and high-stakes work where getting it wrong is expensive. It also features something called adaptive thinking, which means it can decide for itself how much internal reasoning a task actually requires before responding. On hard problems, it thinks longer and more carefully. On simpler ones, it doesn't waste time. The trade-off is that Opus is slower and it burns through your token usage limits faster. So it's not something you reach for every time, it's the model that you use when the other two reach their limit of their capabilities. So if you want an easy way to decide which one to use, here's the way I think about it. Start with Haiku when the task is repetitive, high volume, or straightforward. If you're doing the same kind of thing 50 times over, generating captions, formatting data, cleaning up transcripts, then Haiku will do it faster and cheaper than anything else. Move to Sonnet for your day-to-day professional output. If you're writing something that needs to actually be good, something that a client will read, something that you're going to publish, something that requires coherent structure and real judgment, Sonnet is your default. Step up to Opus only when you hit a wall. When Sonnet gives you an answer that feels shallow or struggles with a genuinely complex problem, a tricky piece of logic, a multi-layered research task, a creative brief with a lot of nuance, that's when Opus comes in. The mistake people make is reaching for Opus by default because it sounds most impressive. It will do the job, of course, but you'll burn through your limits much faster, and you won't really see any difference in the finished result most of the time anyway. Here's where this gets genuinely useful. The smartest approach isn't picking one model and sticking with it. It's using different models for different phases of the same project. A multi-model workflow. Let's say you've just published a YouTube video and you want to turn it into additional content. Phase 1 might be your transcript cleanup. So you take your raw transcript, filler words and all, and you drop it into Haiku. Ask it to remove the filler words, identify the core themes, and pull out the key points. This is a low complexity task. Haiku does it in seconds and costs almost nothing. Phase 2 is structure. Take those themes that Haiku identified into Sonnet. Ask it to build a blog post outline, a LinkedIn post, and a thread structure from the material. Sonnet's reasoning is strong enough to make editorial decisions. What goes first, what's worth expanding, what can be cut. This is where you want the extra intelligence. Phase 3 is the final draft. For the piece you really care about, maybe the long-form article or the email to your list, bring in Opus. Opus is better than the others at holding a nuanced brand voice across a long piece and handling complex creative instructions. It's slower, but the output quality on something like this is worth it. So the same project, but using 3 different models, each doing what it does best. Now here's a tip worth knowing about. Opus supports high-resolution vision up to 3.75 megapixels, which means if you manage visual assets, social templates, thumbnails, brand imagery, you can give Opus a folder of images and ask it to flag anything that looks off. Wrong colors, outdated logos, missing text, inconsistent formatting. It's the kind of review that would take a human hours, but Opus catches it in one pass. Haiku or Sonnet would miss the detail. This is exactly the kind of task that Opus is built for. So the framework is simple. Haiku for speed and volume, Sonnet for your everyday professional work, and Opus when the task genuinely demands extra intelligence and complex thinking, for tasks like image recognition, for example. Get this decision right and you'll get better output and burn fewer credits. Now, once you've got the right model picked, the next question is how to set up Claude so it already knows who you are and what you're working on before you even type a single word, automatically every single session. That's what projects are for. Many people never touch this feature. People who do stop wasting time re-explaining themselves, stop wasting credits, and start getting sharper results from the very first message. It's the next video in the playlist. Click it and I'll see you there.